Hi, Murli.
Hi, Shrikant, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
So I guess 8:40 onwards, we should have more people joining in. Thanks everyone for joining early. We'll start in a few minutes. I'm seeing a bunch of good mornings going on. Good morning, everyone. So while we wait for many others to join, feel free to share the Zoom link with your batchmates, hostel mates, colleagues, who from NITK. The Zoom link has been shared with everyone. And maybe it's also a good time for me to play a quick video of last year's celebration while we wait for the rest to join.
Shrikant, are you playing with audio or just the visuals?
Audio is
It's
playing.
just audio is
Audio is
playing, right? Yeah.
I think there is an issue with the video's audio.
Yeah. So that was a quick glimpse of previous editions of NIT Connect. Yeah, we'll wait. We'll start in a couple of minutes as I'm seeing the numbers trickling in. We'll just play the video again so that people who could listen, we can listen to it. Yeah.
We can't hear the audio, I suppose.
Okay.
No, I could hear it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. There are some people who can't hear it. I can't hear either.
Okay.
Hi, morning, Saurabh. Welcome. Thanks for joining.
Hi, Saurabh. Lovely to have you. We're just waiting for the people to trickle in. We're just playing the audio, video screenshots of the previous editions.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, Shrikant. Hi there.
Hi, Saurabh. We're just playing the video of the previous editions as people are joining in. Great. That those were a few glimpses of NIT Connect from the previous editions. I think we have the key people already here. Good morning, Professor Ravi. Can you hear us?
Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
Okay, great.
You
Yes,
just got my video right. Yeah.
yes, yes. Great.
Good morning, Director, sir. Thanks for joining.
Morning.
We should get started in a couple of minutes. People are joining.
Sure.
Good morning, Professor Ravi. I am Sanjeev.
Very good morning, Mr. Sanjeev.
Professor Ravi, there are a few chapter presidents who have joined. We expect more. So we have Mr. Sanjeev Sinha, Lucknow and UP chapter president. We have uh, Rangan, US East Coast chapter president. Revan, West Coast president.
Right.
We expect few more chapter presidents to join. We also have our keynote speaker, Saurabh here.
Excellent.
Also, good morning.
Morning.
Okay, maybe we can get started as people are joining in. Niranjan?
Yeah, maybe just one more minute and we'll get started, Shrikant.
Sure, sure.
Shrikant, I think we should start.
Great. Thanks a lot for joining in. So good morning, everyone, and uh, welcome to NIT Connect 2025. I think this is the largest ever edition of NIT Connect, and I know we keep saying that every time, but I think we are very excited that this year we are taking it a few notches higher, and you'll hear very soon as to how we are going to do that. So I'll not reveal that suspense. In fact, I joked about this in the previous edition at Enhance that NIT Connect feels like this 4-year-old startup, right? We got incubated at Beehive again in 90K Enterprise. First 2 years we went to a larger setting with Nimhans, and I think this year the main event we are taking it at a larger scale. So stay tuned for that update. So now that I've gotten you all excited, a quick admin thing. We are hosting this on Zoom webinar. So you please, I request everyone to either use the chat option or the Q&A option to keep it engaging. Keep your comments and questions, thoughts coming in. At the right time, we'll kind of curate it and then put it across to the various speakers. So we have a stellar lineup of speakers. Some of them are already seen here. So we'll get started with the proceedings. So first, I'll ask Niranjan, the president of the Bangalore NITK Alumni Chapter, to welcome everyone.
Thank you, Shrikant. Good morning and good evening, friends. Thank you for joining us on your weekend, and a warm welcome to all of you. Super excited to host this curtain raiser. I welcome our director, Professor B. Ravi, a visionary, innovation leader, entrepreneur, and an academician too. Uh, I welcome uh, today's keynote speaker, Saurabh Mukherjee, founder of Marcellus Investment. NIT Connect is a marquee annual business conclave organized by Bangalore chapter in collaboration with other chapters. So I welcome my fellow chapter presidents, and thank you, presidents, for your support in various things like getting speakers and participants and other ideas. I welcome all the speakers of today. Uh, Today, NIT Connect is a popular brand at NIT campus, and students aspire to participate and gain from this. So, I welcome all the students who have joined in. NIT Connect is a platform to collaborate and help each other, and every year we keep doing new things. This year, we would like to work with the institute on a proposal to set up an extension center at Bangalore, which will help incubate innovation, startup hubs. It kind of becomes an extension for students passing out of the institute, and those who are coming to Bangalore. And this will also be a portal to that will enable closer industry interaction, help in consulting, placements. So I think that's the initial idea, and we would like to work more on that. So with that note, I welcome all of you again. And Professor Ravi, thanks for making time. Over to you for your opening remarks and kick off today's proceedings. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Niranjan. Namaskar to everyone. I've been traveling for the last 4 or 5 days, and a bit of my throat is gone, but I hope I'm audible and clear enough. So very, as you said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all those who are joined virtually for this curtain riser. I have fond memories of NITKonnect early this year, 24, and very happy to be part of this curtain raiser for the next edition, fourth edition. And I think this event connects at least three important stakeholders of the institute, that is faculty, alumni, and students, in some sense, past, present, and future. Let me also give you a quick glimpse of, for those who are not aware, uh, last 1.5 years that I have been here at NITK. We have completed now 2 rounds of faculty recruitment, taking the total to about 300 for the first time. We also added about 90 regular staff, almost doubling their number. We have inaugurated or rather dedicated 3 new hostels in the hands of the Honorable Prime Minister. Then we also added a Olympic standard swimming pool, a tennis court, an NCC obstruction course, Miyawaki Forest. The Skytrack foot-over bridge connecting the Western Eastern campus is finally operational, inaugurated. The lecture hall complex D and the Center for Interdisciplinary Studies both will become operational, most probably within the next quarter. Interestingly, last week, just 3 days back, NITK hosted the Smart India Hackathon. We were one of the few hosts across the country who hosted this mega hackathon. Before that, this year, we also had the capacity building workshop in design and entrepreneurship. We had IDE, which is Innovation Design Entrepreneurship Bootcamp. We had an Innovation Week. We had a entrepreneurship master class. We have approved the policy for IPR, technology licensing, and startup incubation by the board of governors. We also plan to set up an invention factory and also a department of entrepreneurship and business. We need your help in all those things. All these are supposed to or expected to strengthen the innovation entrepreneurship ecosystem of the institute. That has been my primary goal of coming and taking charge here. Interestingly for you, we're also coming up with a bold and beautiful curriculum for students to hone their knowledge, skill set, and mindset, and also explore different career options. And NITK should be a platform to really accelerate what you are good at finally. And we are trying to make the campus itself as a living lab for smart, sustainable, Swachh, Samriddh, and Surakshit campus. And these projects will be powered by AI as well, AI, IoT, smart things. All these initiatives are finally aimed to transform NITK from good to great, to make it a model institute with global excellence and local relevance. And this entire journey, alumni are important partners and stakeholders. NITK is always happy to welcome all of you home. Come and stay in the hostel, walk on the beach, meet the teachers and students, and tell us how we can together build this future of this institute. So see you at NITKonnect in Bangalore on February 15th. Let me also wish you all a very happy, healthy, and peaceful new year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ravi. Thanks for that. Also bringing a sense of nostalgia for all of us. We'd love to come back to campus and enjoy our private beach very soon. And thank you, Niranjan, for the welcome as well. Maybe symbolically, we also have a quick video to kind of virtually, curtain raise this. So let me do that. Thank you, Professor Ravi, for inaugurating the virtual curtain raiser.
My pleasure. Thank you. Great.
Great. So with that apart, I think we've come to the main part, and I'm seeing the numbers trickling in. It's early morning here. It's late night for the US and further in the wee hours for the Middle East. But we know that we have representation from all these global chapters, and I'm sure we will have more and more people coming in. So with that apart, I think thanks again, Niranjan, for calling out the various kind of supporters, champions, contributors to NITKonnect. I think it's no longer a Bangalore event for the Bangalore alumni. I think we are trying to make it a calendarized event that the global alumni look to be part of as they make their India and Bangalore visit plans. So with that introduction, welcome, and inauguration, it's time to now. Sorry?
We are driving. I don't know. We're in Benali.
Okay, just mute. Sorry. Yeah. So it's time to introduce our key special person now. You must have seen him in multiple video interviews. You would have seen him read a bunch of his books. I think the younger generation would have seen him viral on Instagram Reels as well. So Saurabh, we're very happy to have you, Saurabh Mukherjee, the co-founder and the CIO of Marcellus Investment Managers. And that's also, by the way, another NITK enterprise founded by Pramod Gubbi as well from the 2000 batch. We were glad to have Pramod last year at our event, and this year we are very happy to have Saurabh Mukherjee join us for this virtual connect. So Saurabh, again, I will do injustice if I attempt to introduce him. I think he's written multiple good books that you might have read, Coffee Can Investing, The Unusual Billionaires. I think today we're going to discuss his latest book, Behold the Leviathan, The Unusual Rise of Modern India. Always many data-driven points, lots of food for thought. So I'll leave the stage to Saurabh to deliver his keynote address. Meanwhile, you can keep your questions coming in. Welcome, Saurabh. Thanks for making it early in the day.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Srikanth. Thank you, NITKonnect, for inviting me. It's a privilege to be speaking to all of you. I've heard about this the university on the beach, on a private beach, for many years from Pramod. So deeply envious. Anybody who goes to university on a private beach, I think, learns 10 times more than anybody who sits in a classroom for the 4 best years of their lives. So deeply envious of all of you, and deeply privileged that this Sunday morning you've given me a chance to talk about our latest book. So what I'll do is I've got 20 minutes. So I'll talk about the book, talk about how India has developed in the most unexpected ways in the last 2 to 3 decades, and then I'll use that to get into the current circumstances that the country finds itself in. I think we're about to enter a fairly deep economic slowdown. It has ramifications. It has implications for not just us as investors, but I think it also has implications for all of you. If you are invested in the Indian economy, if you're working in India, I think it has implications for you. And then I'll try to give you a solution, right? As we enter what I think will be the deepest economic slowdown in 2 decades, what is the solution? How do you and I deal with this? But let me get into the slides. I'll project the slides. I think you should be able to see it. Just shout out if you can't see the slides.
Yes, we can see it. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I'll start with share prices because it's the easiest way to understand the world very quickly. Right? For many years, my colleagues and I had been staring at this table. Right, for many years we've been staring at the table, and we've stared at this table with a degree of, what should I say, amazement, that amongst the world's large economies, amongst the world's major stock markets, the only country that beats India is America. Right. So if you look at, say, the last 20 years, we have been the best stock market in the world. And these are dollar returns, folks. These are not rupee returns. These are dollar returns. So on dollar returns, as you can see, over a 20-year horizon, we beat the rest of the world hands down, right? Over a 10-year horizon, we are the second best to America. I know Taiwan is a little ahead of us, but Taiwan is a small market. It's dominated by one company, which is TSMC. And effectively Taiwan is a satellite of the United States, right? And we sort of long wondered why is it that only India can compete with America? If you notice, right, Japan, China, Germany, they're nowhere as stock markets, right? In terms of wealth creation, the only country that can hold a candle to India is America, right? We've been very perplexed by this, right? Why is India such a powerful compounding machine, right? And then as we sort of dug deeper into this over the last couple of years, let me just 1 second figure out a way to move forward here. As we dug deeper into this, right, we realized that not only are we ahead of the Western countries with respect to compounding wealth, there's no other emerging market which gets remotely close to India in wealth creation, right? So a simple way to understand this, if you look at this table, is if you go back, say, 10, 11, 12 years, and had you invested $10,000 in India, done the same in China, in South Korea, in Indonesia, and in, say, emerging markets in totality. I'm deliberately choosing the most dynamic emerging markets so that it's a fair comparison. You can see that India beats everybody else hands down, right? There is no comparison. There is no other emerging market. If you look at by 2024, $10,000 invested in 2012 would have more than doubled in India. No other emerging market gets close to India. And it's not just stock prices. If you look at business fundamentals, so suppose you said that a simple definition of a good business is one that grows revenues at a minimum of 10% in dollar terms, generates a return of equity of a minimum of 10% and does that for 10 consecutive years, right? So 10 consecutive years of 10% revenue growth and 10% ROE, and you use the last 20 years data, you get the table on the bottom left. The table on the bottom left shows you that India has 162 such companies. We are talking about listed companies here. India has 162, China has 126, and the rest of the emerging markets are a holiday destination, right? There's really nothing there. And more remarkably, the Indian 162, let's call these consistent compounders, companies which grow at 10% minimum revenue growth and with a 10% ROE. The Indian consistent compounders you can see on the table on the right have compounded at 26% over the last 20 years, whereas the Chinese, similar companies in China have only done 10%, right? And it's really these sorts of high quality compounding engines which have laid the bedrock of India's dynamic stock market. The question then is, why are we able to do it? Why can't other countries do it, right? Because remember the domestic narrative in India, and indeed the narrative in newspapers such as the Financial Times or the New York Times, is that India is a bit of a laggard country, right? And if they give us faint praise, the faint praise is usually qualified with some sort of criticism about our development track record. But the stock market narrative is entirely different. We are a behemoth in terms of compounding over very long periods of time. I'm not talking about 10 years. I showed you in the preceding slides 20 years of data where we are head and shoulders above other countries. The only comparison is really with America. So why are we able to do this? Right. So that's what Behold the Leviathan, the book that we published a month ago, the book that's become a bestseller in less than a month. That's what Behold the Leviathan digs deep into. What has India done to produce such outstanding results? And we use Bangalore. I mean, Bangalore today for some work to meet our clients, and we've used Bangalore as a case study, right? And I'll quickly go through this case study that we don't have that much time. For those of you who grew up in Karnataka or in Bangalore, you probably are familiar with this. I wasn't. I only learned very recently that as recently as say 1990, the area of Bangalore, which is Electronic City now, as recently as 1990, there was fertile farmland. Food grains were being grown there. Ragi and millet was being grown there. Electronic City, the foundations were laid in the 1980s, but even in 1991, cows were grazing there and millet was being grown there. 1991, the Indian economy liberalizes, and a pivotal moment is 1992, Infosys goes public. And then in 1993, Infosys uses the money that it generates from its IPO. Infosys uses the money from its IPO to to build its campus there, right? 1993 is when the Infosys campus is established in Electronic City, and Electronic City goes into development overdrive. Between 93 and to the current day, so in 30 years, land prices in Electronic City are up 250x. For those of you who live in Bangalore, you don't need me to tell you what's there in Electronic City. For those of you who don't visit Electronic City often, it's worth visiting. It is basically home to roughly 1 in 5 of India's tech giants, and even leaving aside technology, giant companies like Titan are also headquartered there. If you fast forward a little bit more, over the last decade or so, the building of the elevated carriageway from the Silk Board Junction inside Bangalore proper, or the Silk Board Junction in the peripheries of Bangalore, the building of the elevated carriageway to Electronic City has made life easy for everybody, commuters and visitors like us. And that in turn has catalyzed urban development on an epic scale in Electronic City. And then again, moving forward to the more recent past, in the last couple of years, Apple has decided to set up its factories, or rather, Apple has outsourced its iPhone production to factories not very far away from Electronic City. Remember, this is the first time in Apple's history that iPhones are being made outside China. And Apple has said, as of I think last month, Apple has said something like one fourth of iPhone and pads and AirPods production is going to move to the greater Bangalore region, right? That's, I think Tata is the outsourced manufacturer that does it, but clearly Apple has had huge role to play in building the manufacturing ecosystem. Tata is notionally the manufacturer, but there's been a large Apple team on the ground in Bangalore over the last couple of years building this out. Now you can use this as a microcosm. It might, for those of us who've grown up in India over the last 20 years, this might feel like a very normal development. After all, Gurgaon, Noida, Hinjewadi in Pune, cyber, so the equivalent electronic city in Hyderabad, I think they call it cyber city. Right? These are very familiar developments for us, but this is not the norm the world over. This sort of rapid urban development, where you take farmland and turn it into very high value economic production, is very rare. You can travel across Southeast Asia, you will struggle to find this sort of high end urban development. Southeast Asia has taken farmland and turned it into sweatshops. We are the only emerging country which has taken farmland and in the space of one generation turned it into very high value added services. The winners clearly are easy to spot here. The winners are in the Infosys shareholders, the Infosys employees, say gentlemen like Narayan Murthy, Nandan Nilekani would have become dollar billionaires many times over. Similarly at say Wipro, similarly at Titan, right? The promoters, the shareholders, the senior employees make billions of dollars. But it's also worth dwelling on the losers, because the losers story is also central to India's future. The losers typically are landless farmer. If you're a landless farmer who was operating in Electronic City, remember, were two farms. One was, I think, Konappana Agrahara. Konappana Agrahara was the name of the farm. That's now Electronic City. Those landless farmers are highly unlikely to have found manufacturing jobs. There's only 25 million manufacturing jobs in the entirety of the country. And therefore, if you were a landless farmer in Electronic City, it's highly unlikely you're working in a factory in Hosur or in the greater Bangalore region. You're most likely to be a landless farmer somewhere else in Karnataka or Tamil Nadu today. And that's the first constituency that has lost out in India's development. And the second constituency, interestingly, is SMEs. SMEs are getting crunched. You would far rather be a small business in a village rather than be a small business in the suburbs of Bangalore. Because if you, as soon as you come into the suburbs of a big city, SME profit margins tend to get crunched, right? So the winners of India's development story are big. They're visible. I'm sure there are many of them in this NITKonnect gathering itself. But the losers are many, and their cause is increasingly going to drive the behavior of politicians, right? And in a way, India's story is Bangalore multiplied by 100, right? As recently as the 60s, we had people dying of famines. My dad tells me that in the 60s, it was a regular occurrence to see people dying of hunger in the streets of Kolkata. Famine visited India twice in the 60s. But we are a democracy, and that's why I think we're able to rival America. If you notice, the world's two best performing stock markets are free market democracies. A democracy responds to people's concerns. 1970s, food revolution. We're now amongst the world's largest producers of food, easily self-sufficient. Famine is a distant memory. And then fast forward 1991, right? The remarkable reforms triggered by P.V. Narasimha Rao ji and Manmohan Singh ji in June 1991. And from there on, the country doesn't look back. In our book, in Behold the Leviathan, we've got a chart that I feel is probably the chart of the book. This is the chart at the center of this page. Just look at the chart on the center of this page. What we did was we collated data from multiple sources to figure out how many Indians are killed by terrorists, by insurgents, and in violent attacks, right? And you can use data from the government. There are various government databases, and we pulled them together. And you get the chart in the middle of the page. Basically, at the turn of the century, around 2,500 Indians would get killed every year from violent attacks, from crime, right? That 2,500 is now less than 100. Right? In the space of one generation, we've become a far more peaceful society. I'm sure there are naughty people, there are terrorists in India even today, but the ability of antisocial elements to inflict loss of life has been dramatically reduced in the space of a generation. And to build a society which changes its narrative, it turns its narrative into one of prosperity, of innovation, of hope, of enterprise. You need the very basic fundamentals. The basic fundamentals is life and limb have to be secure. And in the space of one generation, what that chart in the middle of the page tells me is India, we've delivered that. The society, the country has delivered to people assured safety of life. And I think that's the basic fundamental. The macro fundamentals is not the fundamentals of a country. The fundamentals of a country are people looked after, right? So the result of this is dramatic. The result of this is now, if you look at Government of India tax data, it tells you a remarkable story, right? And the story is here on this chart on the right. So India has 1.4 million companies registered to pay corporate tax. Out of those 1.4 million, 1 million pay nil, 1 million have a nil return. So they are claiming they don't make any money. So 400,000 Indian companies are therefore paying corporate tax to the exchequer. Out of those 400,000, the largest 70,000 are growing profits at over 15% per annum, right? And the largest 70,000, i.e. 17%, 17% of India's highly profitable companies, they account for 98% of India's profits. That black line with the thick arrow sticking out, 17% of India's highly profitable companies account for 98% of the country's profits, and profit growth here is rapid. Profit growth here is at 15% per annum. In fact, if you look at the black line, you can see the slope has steepened after COVID, right? The slope has steepened after COVID. After COVID, India's 70,000 most profitable companies are growing profits at 25% per annum. But if you dig deeper into these 70,000, an even more interesting story emerges. The story that emerges if you dig into the 70,000 is the fastest profit growth in India. The fastest profit growth in India is not in the largest companies. The largest 900 companies, which is the core of the stock market, the largest 900 companies is not where the fastest profit growth is. The fastest profit growth is what I call decile 2. If you look at the chart on the left, the fastest profit growth is in the 6,000 companies below the fastest profit growth is the 6,000 companies below the top 900. So the top 900, what I call rulers, the rulers are the top 900 companies. They're growing profits at a decent rate, 15%, nothing wrong with that. But these are the giant, these are the incumbents. Many of them have outmoded business models, and they, I think, will get disrupted in the next 10 years or so. The ruling class, the big companies, they account for 2/3 of India's profits, but I think there's a very high chance they'll get disrupted in the next decade. The most exciting part of India are these challengers, right? The challengers are decile 2. There's around 6,000 of them. Profits for challengers are typically between 50 crores to 500 crores. So Marcellus would be at the smaller end of the challenger spectrum. These are companies using technology, UPI, India Stack, social media. They have very little by way of physical assets. They have plenty by way of intellectual property, business know-how, intangible brands, and so on. And the next decade will be truly exciting because it'll be about these challengers who have profits between 50 to 500 crores. They have IP, they have digital assets. These guys are going to go and hit up the large companies, right? So the next decade will be a titanic battle between the old and the new. The old are the 900 companies who dominate the profitability stakes in the country. And the new are these rapidly growing challengers, well-funded, smart, lean companies with the benefits of India Stack and with the benefits of all the good stuff that India has pulled together in the last decade or so. There are casualties, and these casualties are important to understand because this is central to the slowdown that we are entering. The casualties are the vast majority of Indian small businesses who've been left behind. So I call them plebeians. 99% of India's companies by count, 99% of India's companies by count only account for 1% of the country's PAT. These companies they don't really have the technological know-how. Getting access to funding is difficult for them. And as the country, as GST creates a pan-India playing field, as GST creates a pan-India market, as UPI and India Stack make cost of transactions low, and as the taxman makes it very difficult to steal, as the taxman makes tax avoidance harder and harder, this core of the Indian SME community is basically facing extinction. This 99% is where I think a big part of India's challenge will lie. These are the predominant providers of employment in our country, and these companies are not really viable anymore in this era of difficulties in tax evasion and this era of digital driven change, right? So that's the downside. The winners are the rulers and the challengers. The casualties are the other plebeians here, right? Just one more aspect I wanted to highlight. When I saw the video, I think when I was waiting for you guys to begin, I was seeing the video. The video of last year was being played. I didn't see too many women on that video, right? I think for every of every 10 people on that video, only one was a woman. The next decade in India belongs to women. The data is very clear. I don't have the time to give you the details. Please read the book. You'll get the details. The data is very clear. Women are far better educated than men in India today. They have more money in the bank than men. They have more money in the stock market than men. They're getting better returns than men in the stock market. Data from the RBI suggests that women-run businesses are doing far better than men-run businesses. And I think one of the central stories in India in the next decade will be the rise of women. And I'm sure NITKonnect will have more women in the years to come. That 10% ratio just feels very strange in the context of how the country is changing. The second change that India is going through is the whole concept of elite education is gradually getting outdated. So for the first time in Indian history, we can see on the board that the majority of the boards of the Nifty 50 companies are run by non-IIT, non-IIM, and non-foreign degrees, right? So speaking the Queen's English, drinking gin and tonic at, say, a nice club, those are good things to do from a leisure perspective, but they don't really have any business cachet anymore. Elite education is something that has very little relevance in modern India. And it's very evident in the data, both on boardroom data. It's also evident in corporate tax data and income tax data, right? There's a new class of Indians, local graduates pushing through, who are pushing through on the back of business smarts, business acumen, hard work, and ability to understand the country at a very grassroots level, at a very granular level, and build businesses ground up. The third piece, which I'm sure those of you who live in South India have understood better than most other people, the southern states, the seven southern states account for a quarter of the population, half the GDP, and two-thirds of the GDP growth. The South is by far and away India's main economic engine. If you add South and Gujarat, that's basically three-quarters of India's GDP growth. The rest of the country really isn't growing or doing much. And then linking this to the themes which will benefit successful businesses in India. As everybody I'm sure knows, China's economy is in trouble. They are in a epic economic, or what should I say, geopolitical battle with the United States. And as China and America go at each other, that's creating big opportunities in mobile phone manufacturing. We discussed iPhones, in active pharmaceutical ingredients, and in medical devices manufacturing. In the book, we've explained why these will create $300 billion of economic activity. A lot of that, I think, is going to go to South India again. And the last piece, which you've seen in Bangalore, but which we're now seeing elsewhere in the country, global capability centers. In Europe and America, there are more vacancies now. There are more job vacancies in Europe and America than there are applicants, right? And especially for white collar jobs, everybody who has a brain in America or the UK wants to work in finance or in startups or in Silicon Valley, right? Nobody wants to do a accounts payroll job or a HR job or a marketing job in a Fortune 500 company. As a result, all of these white collar jobs are coming to India. We think it's going to be a $1.5 trillion opportunity over the next decade or so, and global capability centers are coming up. Thankfully, it's given the traffic problems that Gurgaon and a Pune and a Bangalore has. Thankfully, increasingly the GCCs are coming up in places like Nashik and Coimbatore and Tirunelveli. And I think this trend will continue for many years to come, right? Now let's turn to the slowdown I was talking about, right? It's all very well. I'm going to jump these slides so that we get to what's relevant. So we've had 4 very good years after COVID. Year to March 21, 22, 23, 24. The economy was booming, and we are a free market economy. Free market economies naturally go through cycles, right? And what we have entered is a fairly pronounced cyclical downturn. You can see it here. Corporate, this is the stock market. This is corporate earnings growth, profit growth in the stock market. Profit growth in the stock market has slowed down sharply. Basically, a year ago, corporate profit growth peaked at around 30%, and it's pretty linearly come down. And now the quarter that's passed by, corporate profits actually shrank in India. Profits shrank by 5% in the latest quarter. I don't think we're going to come out of this quickly. I think the corporate profitability challenge sustains. We've had a cyclical economic boom, and it stands to reason now we'll have a cyclical economic downturn. What should worry everybody who's invested in the stock market even more is this cyclical economic downturn is upon us, but many people in India are oblivious to it. The PE multiple of the stock market, that's one way we measure how optimistic people are about the future. The PE multiple of the Indian stock market is at an all-time high, and that combination typically is very dangerous. You're in an economic downturn, corporate earnings are shrinking, demand is stagnating, and yet the stock market valuations are at record levels. And my submission to you would be, if you have heavily invested in Indian equities, think about diversifying. Now, where should you diversify? As I said, there's only one big market which does better than India, and that's the United States of America. In fact, if you look at this chart, right, over the last decade or so, America has actually done twice as well as India, right? The last decade has been exceptional for America because the ascent of tech, the ascent of big tech has meant America has been able to cream it in the last decade. But even if you take, say, 20, 30-year periods, even if you take 20, 30-year periods, for example, here you can see that even over 20, 30-year periods, America is the preeminent stock market in the world. The further benefit to us Indians is much of our spending effectively is in dollars, right? So if you buy an iPhone in India, effectively it's a dollar purchase. You might think you're buying in rupees, but it's a dollar purchase. Those of you who have kids going abroad to study, I think in my case, most likely my children will end up studying in America over the next few years. It's a dollar purchase. I took a flight this morning. It was the plane was a Boeing, and even though I paid in rupees, effectively it's a dollar purchase, right? Because I'm paying for an airline. Almost all the costs of running an airline in India are in rupees. And similarly, if you watch OTT on Netflix, if you watch a movie on Netflix, it's a dollar purchase, right? So one of the reasons that we as Indians should think very actively about American investments is at least a third. I suspect in most cases, as much as half of our spending is in dollars, even though superficially we might be spending it in rupees. And the biggest, even bigger benefit, America is a successful market. You and I anyway spend in dollars, and therefore we need dollar returns. But the even bigger benefit is the correlation between their market and our market is pretty low. In fact, it's the lowest pairwise correlation. It's the lowest pairwise correlation between any two large markets, right? And the result of that is if you and I were to invest half our money in America and half our money in India, we actually end up with even better returns than either of them, right? And I've made that point through this chart.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'll just mute.
Yeah.
Reggae Heaven board. 1 minute.
Guys, could you put your mics on mute, please?
Yeah, please continue.
Yeah. So yeah,
Sorry, sir, continue.
yeah. So I was saying that if you just look at the data for the last 20 years, right, this is called the free lunch in finance, right? If you just invested in America, you would have made 14% returns in rupee terms. Ditto for Nifty, 14% returns. But if you've done 50-50, half in America, half in India, your returns would be 14.5%. It's even better on a risk-adjusted basis, right? Remember, you can take the returns divided by the volatility. You get a risk-adjusted returns. Risk-adjusted returns are even better if you do 50-50, right? So this is called the free lunch in finance. Each country by itself gives you 14%, but the two blended together gives you 14.5. And if you do the same, you can see the same in our portfolios. Over the last couple of years, our American portfolio, we call it Global Compounders, has had a decent run. So has our Indian portfolio. It's also had a decent run over the last couple of years. But if you blend the two, if you blend India and America, you're getting diversification. Remember, simple way to think about diversification is when they have elections, we don't. When we have elections, they don't, right? So if you're blending two things which have very little correlation with each other, it gives you stability, right? And stability allows you to sleep at night. If you look at the chart on the right-hand side, the blue line, which combines both countries, is more stable than either the red line, which is India, or the black line, which is America, right? So combining the two countries, to our mind, makes a lot of sense, and it'll also help you deal with what I think will be a fairly painful downturn in the coming quarters as we go through basically a period of detox after 3 years of partying post-COVID, right? And again, just to sort of bring it to life, the American portfolio that we've invested in has some of the companies whose products you and I use every day. I'm sure everybody on this call understands how Microsoft and Amazon are relevant to our lives, but even say something like ASML. ASML is a Dutch company. All of us who are watching this on a pad or a laptop or a phone, every single one of us, the chip in our electronics, the lithography on that comes from one company in the world, ASML. As the first line of ASML's website says, this is the most important company in the world you've never come across, right? So some companies like ASML, Amazon, Microsoft, they provide the basics of modern life. Even Heiko, you might not have heard of Heiko, but the plane I took, the seat belts were made by Heiko. 80% of the seat belts in the world, 80% of the seat belts on planes in the world come from come from HICO, right? So the goal by blending America and India, what are you doing by blending America and India? You're blending companies in a high growth economy such as ours, companies that provide the basics of life to Indians, but you're blending that with the world's most technologically advanced companies who are providing the utility, the basic infrastructure of global commerce comes from America. You blend the two, you get better outcomes. And I would submit to you that that's a better way to think about the coming years. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much, NITKonnect, for this opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Saurabh, for that insightful presentation as always. I think the anecdote about Electronic City was really amazing to hear. I think we Bangaloreans wouldn't have perhaps known of that. And perhaps a lot of those names that you mentioned are resurfacing back as metro stations. That's what I
Right.
observed. Yeah. But anyway, so great conversation. I think we have a few questions. I would love if you can take a few of them. I think I'll just read out a few. And I think Murli asks about this whole process efficiency. That's an initiative being taken up at the government level. Sanjeev Sanyal, he's been talking about it. So, will that help grow us faster? I mean, help us grow faster? I mean, what's your take?
So I think more than process efficiency, right? For the smaller business, remember the core constituency which is getting crushed in India is the SME, right? So companies with PAT, companies with profits less than a crore. I think we need a dramatic reduction in red tape. And there's plenty of red tape which still holds back small businesses. So if you think about it, right, a small business till 5, 6 years ago, a small business basically operated without paying taxes, and thereby they could make a 20-25% profit margin. That 20-25 profit margin is now zero, courtesy GST and income tax payments, right? Now, fair enough. You can't build a society on tax evasion, but if you're now going to tax small businesses, you have to give them freedom to hire, fire, set things up like they please, as opposed to spinning around them tons of red tape. So for example, we are running a small business in Marcellus. We have 4 people full time working in compliance. I counted there are 12 or 13 codes that we have to comply with, right? Not just income tax, not just the Securities and Exchange Board of India, those I understand, but even things such as the Shops and Establishments Act. So, for example, in our corporate canteen, if we serve cooked food to our staff, we need a catering license, right? For which there's a whole separate code to follow. So we don't supply any cooked food to our staff, right? These sorts of retrograde things will have to be wound back. The government has put a full tax load on small businesses. Fair enough, I understand that, but you have to then step back and ease up the red tape for small businesses. Otherwise, these guys are simply going to go under.
Wonderful. I think that's a nightmare for many entrepreneurs. I think one question and two themes emerging on multiple questions is Rakshit, Abhay talking about the role of AI, and two themes. The questions are on one is AI impact on jobs, and another on AI impact on trading. Maybe algorithm trading will become more may evolve. So, any quick thoughts on both of these themes with AI coming into
So
fast now?
the negative side is well known, right? Every large company I meet basically plans to sack 30 to 50% of its staff in the next couple of years. So we'll have a whole wave of job culling from prominent companies, right? And that's usually the first way technology hits us, that there is a what's called the substitution effect. You substitute human beings with machines, right? But I think in due course, 2, 3, 4 years out, the complementarity effects will come through. So a straightforward complementarity effect is, if say Saurabh Mukherjee is able to do things quicker courtesy AI, he will be able to get more done, and then Marcellus can either cut prices or Marcellus can use Saurabh's superior productivity to build its business further, right? And if you think about it, right, if you just even right here, right now, there's 4 modes of complementarity kicking in, but they're invisible because they're not talked about. First off, there's 10 million people in the gig economy, right? The gig economy wouldn't be feasible without the tech advances. I think that 10 million people in that Uber, Ola, Swiggy, Zomato economy will explode in the next 10 years. QCom itself, I think, will add several million people who will be employed by the gig economy. Secondly, there are 80 million Indians on YouTube earning a living. Out of that 80 million Indians, the top million YouTubers in India are already earning in excess of 12, 13 lakhs per annum. So there are a million Indians already earning a full-time living on YouTube, right? And that number, I think, will also expand. People who earn a living on YouTube and social media as influencers will also expand. Third area, bot training, right? So bot training, I don't know exactly how many people are doing it, but whenever I go on Naukri.com, whenever I go on employment classified site, I see somewhere between 50,000 to 70,000 vacancies for bot trainers, right? And if at any given point in time 50, 70,000 are being hired, my reading is India will end up becoming the bot training capital of the world. And the fourth aspect is the dark web. From what I hear from my friends, India has more people on the dark web than rest of the world combined. Right? We have something like 30, 40 million Indians on the dark web. My reading is at least 10% of them are earning a good living. I'm sure all of you know what happens in the dark web and how you earn a good living. But if they're earning a living on the dark web, they'll be getting paid in crypto. There's no way we'll pick it up legally, but that's bound to happen, right? Because we are the world's coding capital. Even the dark web coding will end up getting done in India. So technology will create jobs. AI will create jobs. At the moment, the destruction is evident. The creation is not so evident. But if you give it a 2, 3 year cycle, and that's why I reckon it's a couple of years of downturn as we adjust to AI,
Right.
but we will come out of it stronger. Technology will continue fueling the unusual rise of modern India.
Wonderful. Thanks for that, Saurabh. Maybe one last question. I mean, Yash is asking your views on regulations from the government slowing down the growth. So, do you think there are regulations causing that, and
No,
how
I
will
think
we
that,
counter
this
them?
is a backlog, Yash. I mean, the sorts of Shops and Establishments Act, I think, was created 60, 70 years ago. I don't think we can
Hmm.
blame any one government for that. All sorts of crap has built up over 150 years. So, if I look at, say, the Cooperative Housing Society, I stay in Bombay. There are, I think, 60 different rules a cooperative housing society has to follow. How many floors we can have, how far from the main road we have to be, on the ground floor what we can have and not have, and the same thing applies to factories as well, right? So there are state level rules which have built up over decades. There are central government level rules which have built up over decades, and we've taken the first step forward as a country. We are saying everybody should pay taxes, right? Now people are happy to do
Right.
that, but then they are saying the state has to step back and let me run my business, because if the state gives me 60 different codes to comply with, then I can't make any money if I follow the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. So India has done the step one, which is get everybody to pay up. But we now need to do step two, which is pull the state back, pull back 150 years of regulation so that businesses can prosper, especially small businesses can prosper, because that's the only way actually we'll be able to counteract the negative that AI will impose. If you let small businesses flourish, they will go online, they will use modern technology and build viable profitability. And that's the way we will counter the narrative. Big companies are going to employ increasingly fewer people. Big companies are going to employ increasingly fewer people. Small companies is where the employment growth will have to come from.
Right. I mean, very insightful. Sort of maybe while there are a lot of later stage, senior, alumni from, various batches. We also have a bunch of students and also, people who just entered their workforce. They might not be investing in your PMS, but then how do you think they should approach investing in some of these themes you mentioned?
So folks, we realized very early on that not everybody has 50 lakhs to invest in a PMS. So our Indian portfolio, Meritor Q, the one that I beamed up, the Indian portfolio you can access through small case. It's called Meritor Q. You can access Marcellus Meritor Q. Pramod, what's the minimum sub on it? Is that 3 or 4 lakhs, right?
Yeah, so it's on small case. So on small case, yeah, it's about 3 to 4 lakhs.
Yeah. So for those who are starting out, start out early in your investing journey. You'll get many more decades to compound your wealth. I started when I was 24. I wish I'd started when I was 14, but yeah, we grew up in a Bengali middle class family. It has its drawbacks. So I started when I was 24. I would strongly recommend start in your early 20s. Start small, but the earlier you start, the more you can invest. And in all honesty, had I not started at 24, I wouldn't have been able to do my first startup in the second half of my 20s. The only reason I was able to do a startup in the second half of my 20s was whatever little money I had saved up from my early 20s, and that went into my first startup. Whatever I saved up through my 30s went into creating Marcellus with Pramod. So save early, invest early, take risks early in life, and you'll benefit from the unusual rise of modern India.
Awesome. I think that's a great note to end this talk, Saurabh. And thanks,
Thank you so
Pramod,
much.
as well, for making this happen. So, Pramod is from the 2000 batch. He's also flaunting the background there with the NITK badge. So thanks, Saurabh. Thanks,
Thank
Pramod.
you.
This
I'll
is
keep studying
extremely
on the beach. I think the beach thing is the most positive piece. The classroom learning piece, I'm increasingly skeptical of in this age of AI.
right. I think that's where most of the startup ideas are being incubated, I guess. So yeah, I think we'll take that advice.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, Saurabh. Thank you, Pramod, for making it and this wonderful chat. And I think you are in Bangalore, so I guess there might be opportunities for people to meet you as well. And we look forward to seeing you at the main event as well at
Thank you
one
so
of
much.
these coming editions. Thank you so much. Thank you. Great. So that was Saurabh, our keynote speaker. So thank him for all the insights. If there are any further questions, I knew there were a lot of questions on digital public infrastructure, etc. There are a lot of his videos already, so you can refer to them, and we can obviously have them sent as well. Taking the discussion ahead, we have a very quick kind of update. All the suspense I created upfront. Now it's time to kind of unveil them. So I'll invite Murli and Deepak to quickly share some details about how big are we making, NIT Connect 2025. Over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Shrikant. And that was a fantastic talk by Saurabh. Very analytical, very insightful, and it perfectly, I think, sets the context for the rest of the conversations today and for NIT Connect. Hi, everybody. My name is Murli. I'm from the 1991 batch, mechanical. I live in Bangalore and I've been a serial entrepreneur in the education space. What we'll do over the next 10 minutes is I and Deepak Dhar, 2004 batch, successful serial entrepreneur and founder of Nestaway and Repute. What we'll do is we'll unpack the excitement around NIT Connect 2025. And before we get to NIT Connect 2025, I'll take a couple of minutes and talk to you about the history, the context, and the purpose of NIT Connect itself. So what is NIT Connect? NIT Connect is a platform which enables all KRECians and NITKians across batches to connect, collaborate, get inspired, and to contribute to each other's professional development, right? This platform is focused in the areas of business, entrepreneurship, and professional growth. It's a format of a day, 1 day kind of an event, usually once a year, typically in January and February. It's like a very professionally run 1 day event. That's the format of the event. This is not just a startup or a tech only event, right? This platform, this event covers multiple industry segments. It has seen participation from manufacturing, from retail, from EV, logistics, infrastructure sectors, even from the social sector. This is also not just a startup focused event. Many times we think that this is just for startups and founders. In fact, we've had very good participation from large MNCs, and from homegrown legacy businesses. In fact, there's a very good participation from consultants, mentors, coaches, and so it's a very diverse kind of a event, right? So that's what NIT Connect is actually about. But why NIT Connect, right? So generally, most of us connect among ourselves in our batches. We meet our own batches. We don't really connect across batches. And even among our batches, also, the conversation is really about nostalgia, about fellowship, about old memories. We, in fact, we hesitate a lot to even talk about business and find out about business, right? About what each of us are doing. And we felt that we built such a powerful. We are a premier institute with powerful alumni, and we should collaborate more with respect to business. So that's the context for NIT Connect. We want to create this as a multi-batch platform where serious business and entrepreneurship and professional development happens. So the Bangalore chapter started with this thought process in about 3 years ago, in 2022, as Niranjan and Shrikant mentioned at the beginning. The first edition itself in Beehive it started with the bang. About 200 people participated, and really it set the buzz. People really found value. We had the format has powerful keynotes, fireside chats, inspirational talks, and various other things. Over the last about 3 years, from 200, we moved to about 500 participants next year, again in Beehive. The third year, 2024, we moved to Nimhans Convention Center. We've seen close to about 2,000 participants, almost about 50 corporate brands participate, collaborating and participating in NIT Connect. We've also had powerful speakers, right, who have participated, and these are inspirational Suratkal guys who have contributed in different areas and who bring very, very diverse perspective. So we've had fantastic speakers come into this. Over 150 speakers, if you put a tally across the 3 years. Uh, Apart from NITK speakers, we've also had a very good couple of very inspirational external speakers. For example, last year the keynote was done by Ravi Venkatesan, who was a former board member of Infosys, former chairman of Microsoft. The earlier year we had Mr. Koshi, who was a CEO of ONDC, talk about the revolution that ONDC is sparking. So this it's a very power packed kind of an event. We've also had a strong participation from NITK companies and brands. In fact, we've been very fortunate that this is a by NITK for NITK kind of a platform. We've had these are many of the sponsors for the previous events. If you observe each one of them, apart from maybe one or two, are NITK companies, and many of them are famous companies in the known area. Many of them are leading the way in there and innovating, and many of them are large enterprises, right? So this is the power of NITK. This is the power of the magic of all of us coming together, and that's the platform we built. 3 years of a very successful run, and stepping into the fourth year, NIT Connect 2025. I'll now invite Deepak to talk to you about what's in store at NIT Connect 2025. Over to you, Deepak.
Thanks, Murli. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining from all over the world. We are thrilled to announce the exciting lineup that we have been eagerly working on. NIT Connect 25 is happening, and as Srikanth mentioned, it promises to be bigger and better. The theme for this year is Engineer for the World. Our aspirations are now global. We don't want to create just for India or Bharat, but also for the world. This year, we celebrate our innovative minds shaping a better future for everyone, everywhere. Please mark your calendars. NIT Connect 25 will take place on 22/2, that is 22nd February 2025 at Taj Yashwantpur. Please block the day from breakfast to dinner. It's a full day event, and we are going to have some events prior to that in the last evening on 21st evening as well. NIT Connect 25 will be filled with insightful sessions. We are expecting 45 plus thought leaders. Of course, there is going to be networking opportunity. We are expecting more than 1,200 participants. There are going to be interactive workshops. If you would like to have breakfast with the NITK mentor of your choice, we have breakfast mentor session. If you would like to share your great work with our alumni, we have exhibition space and product demos. And if you want to be there just to catch up with friends, we even have an evening filled with music and dance. The discussion this year would be around how to build global companies. If we are in 2025, of course, we can't have something without talking about AI. We have tracks on clean tech and EVs. We have sessions on deep tech in space, defense, and semicon. We'll discuss how to use the talent in India to make global impact through global capability centers and even opportunities in some of the hottest markets outside India. Whether you're looking to explore new ideas, connect with industry leaders, or upskill yourself, NIT Connect is designed not to just deliver value, but also memories. We would also be celebrating the success of 100 plus of our prominent alumni by hosting them for an exclusive dinner. The annual Startup Showcase NIT Connect Top 5 is also back. This year, we are not just looking to showcase what you are building or connecting you to investors, but also to fund some of the most exciting startups through an alumni angel fund. We have added a career accelerator to allow the NITK talent to meet the opportunities to be offered by the organizations led by our alumni. We are working towards a power-packed lineup of speakers, not just some of the most successful NITK alumni, but also other leaders and policymakers. Hope to make it worth your time at the event. We take this opportunity to thank our early sponsors for their support. Ravi Anand Rao and Umesh, class of 1991, co-founders Capstone Life. Capstone Life designs communities and builds homes that enable sustainable lifestyle and promote new way to live. Monappa and Shesh, Class of 2003, co-founders Beehive. Beehive is India's leading managed office and enterprise co-working space. We look forward to your IPO very soon. We also thank Mr. Lawai Navlaki and International Money Matters for sponsoring the CXO dinner. International Money Matters is a trusted partner to ensure financial independence across the globe. Registrations are open. Please visit nitkalumni.in/events to register. Please use the form on the event page to share what would you like to be discussed and what would you like to hear. We have the forms open for startups who would like to showcase at Startup Showcase of NITK 25. For the investors who are looking to invest in these startups, you can register your interest. We can't wait to see you there. Look forward.
Thank you, Deepak. I think, as I said earlier, this is a for NITKNs by NITKNs kind of an event. So while we'll sort of put together some thematic areas and some area topics, I think we are still 2 months away from the event, and we look forward to a lot of your ideas and your contributions, suggestions, and speakers that we could get to the event, and many other inputs. And that's how we'll build this together, all of us. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Murli and Deepak, for that crisp presentation. Yes, NIT Connect 2025 is live. Taj Yashwanthpur, definitely an upgrade. A lot of plugins there on how you all can engage. So really excited to be being there and seeing a lot of you. I think the link is open, so I'm just pasting it here on the chat as well. So please sign up. We have an early bird offer until Jan 5th, which is of 999. So I think a lot of value for one day at Taj Yashwanthpur, meeting your batchmates and new alumni. So great, thank you, Murli and Deepak. And just one more point: the three sponsors. Great to have sponsors 3 months before the event, and all of them have supported us in the past. So it's great that we are able to get their trust back, and I think that shows kind of the value that all of us are being able to put together in organizing this event. Thank you, Deepak, Murli. I'm also taking this opportunity to very quickly kind of recognize the global collaboration theme that we have this year. And for that reason, we've actually taken initiative to reach out to all the chapters, making it a truly global event. We have several chapter presidents, online with us today. So I'll just call out a few names. We have Sanjeev Sinha from the UP chapter. We have Ravi Rangan sir from the US East Coast chapter. We have Raven Ray from US West Coast. We have Joseph Silveria from the Goa chapter, and we have Prakash sir from the Gujarat chapter. So welcome all of you, sirs. We'd love to have you at the main event. So please book your tickets right away. And maybe I'll invite Rangan sir maybe to share a quick a minute of remarks, if that's fine. And even anyone else can join in as well. Yeah.
Hi. Good morning to all of you. Good evening from US. Very happy. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, very clearly.
Okay. So, thank you, Professor Ravi, for dynamic leadership you provide to NITK, and Srikanth and Niranjan for organizing such a great event on behalf of Bangalore chapter. So, yes, I mean, it's really great to see. I graduated a long time ago. Many of you were, I'm sure most of you were born after that, much later after that, but we still have a connect, and we are one big global family. Thank you all, and all the best to NITK Connect 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Rangan, for keeping it crisp. We'd love to see you at the event, and so also with all the other chapter presidents. And we expect that all of you get a very big delegation from each of your cities to Bangalore. You can book a flight, you can book a bus, and definitely make it. So we are running short of time, so I'll keep it at that. We'd love to see all of you, and we'll move on to our next.
Sorry,
Very,
anyone
yeah.
else? Any one more chapter president want to add a quick minute? Maybe
Yeah,
Sanjay sir.
thank you very much, Niranjan and the team. I'm very happy to be part of this NITK Connect this year, and I'm sure that it's pretty chilly here in North India, and I will ensure that a large participation takes place from UP and Uttarakhand. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanjeev sir. Thanks for that support. We look forward to seeing you as well, and a lot of you from UP and Uttarakhand. Thank you. Great. So I think we are now on to our next fireside chat, as we are calling it. So let me just spotlight the folks as well as introduce them as well. We have So let me add the spotlight on Hiral as well. So we have two, I think, stalwarts in the business world here, and the theme of this event is actually built for the world or engineered for the world, right? And I think we have two great representations of people who are personifying that theme in some sense. So we have Hiral Chandrana, CEO of Veltris Group. He was the ex group CEO of Mastech, been a executive across multiple billion-dollar businesses, including Wipro. So welcome, Hiral. We also have Uttam. Uttam is my senior. I've met him at campus, and good to see his journey as well. Founder and CEO of Captain Fresh. Again, um, uh, you know, uh, uh, at a very short period of time, of 4.5 years, I think he's already looking at taking his company to IPO next year. So both of them will weave in very insightful journeys of Uttam building this whole 0 to 1 to now, I think, several 100 million, and he will mention the exact number of revenue in the last 4.5 years. And truly, Captain Fresh has become a global supply chain in the seafood value chain. And he's from the 2008 batch. Hiral brings obviously the perspective of scaling several $100 million businesses to several billion-dollar businesses. So I think that's a unique perspective as well that we'll love to hear from him. Again, I'm not going to spend time on their profiles. It's really, really remarkable. So over to you, Uttam and Hiral. The way we are doing it, like we discussed, we'll have a quick note from each of you. Maybe starting with Uttam to start with the 0 to 1 part, and Hiral to take it from there. So maybe I'll hand over the stage to Uttam.
Thanks so much, Shrikant, and it's wonderful to be part of this audience. And thank you so much for having me here. So, as you mentioned, yeah, I passed out of NITK in 2008. After that, I did a very short stint in technology and very quickly realized that maybe I should look beyond technology. Went and did my MBA, then was fortunate to be part of a few, I would say, good foundational stints in consulting and investment banking. Started Captain Fresh in 2020. It's been an adventurous ride so far. It's been, like you mentioned, 4.5 years since we started Captain Fresh. A quick highlight in terms of where we are in terms of Captain Fresh before I go into some of the specifics around the 0 to 1 journey that I've covered. So, Captain Fresh today is a global seafood supply chain player, which is where the core is technology. We do around 500 to 550 million dollars business. Close to 2/3 of that business is in the US and 1/3 is in Europe. While yes, we started as India distribution player, and very quickly we realized that US and Europe is where we really unlock a lot of value. And now we are in fact, the global player. And even on the supply side, we started as India supply player. Today we are fairly diversified, where India is 25-30% of our supply. And rest comes from rest of Asia, Europe, and LATAM as well. So in a short period of time, we've been able to build a fairly sustainable, large business, and hopefully in the next 12 odd months, we should look to a public in our journey. So that's where Captain Fresh is today. Going back and reflecting on a few of the aspects on the 0 to 1 journey, I think the most important thing for me when I started was to decide whether this needs to be a VC funded business or a bootstrapped business. That is a big decision. And the way you play the game, between the two is fairly different. As it's easy for you to guess that because I chose the VC funded route, because I always believed that an industry like seafood will need a lot of capital to make a dent. And that kind of capital access can come in only when you have external investors. Uh, so, which meant that once I chose VC funded route, there are a lot of choices that you need to make along the way in that 0 to 1, which needs to be done in a particular manner, which is you need to have a large vision, and it needs to be fairly well thought through in the sense that if you are taking money from investors like Axel, Tiger, or Prosus, who are likely to support you only if you have a vision that can unlock at least 10, 20, 30 times returns for them, which means the outcome should be not shy of a billion. So obviously, not everything that you choose would be a opportunity outcome of this size. But if you are not really aiming for that, then you would not have partnership from these VCs. So in our case, we have these names which have partnered with us at least half a dozen times. We've raised 6 to 7 rounds in our journey so far, and every time each of these funds have doubled down, which has been significantly helpful for us in terms of how we built out the Captain Fresh in such a short period of time. So clearly, making that choice as an entrepreneur, whether it should be VC funded or bootstrap, is quite important. Of course, you can always shift gears between bootstrap and then moving to VC funded, but having that clarity is very important because both are very, very different in terms of the way you build the business. Second is, I think, the focus on team, the quality of team is extremely important. And having that clarity right from day one that you're building a large or you're going to build a large institution is very, very important because the culture sets in with your initial set of people, the quality of people that you get. And here is where one of the things that I did was not to tap into anything from my own network. Pretty much the entire talent pool that I got was extremely diverse. Nothing that was common in terms of my background or their background. That kind of helped me in terms of expanding networks very, very quickly in terms of bringing the talent pool uh, within into Captain Fresh, and also the way we have gone global today. So today I have close to 400 employees, out of which more than 200 are not Indians. They are actually based in Europe and US. So in such a short period of time, as an Indian company, being able to attract talent, global talent, was possible only because uh, it was not called, let's say, a South Indian startup, or it was not stereotyped in any manner. It was a very, very well diversified talent setup right from day one. I think the other thing is the governance that you establish in the startup from day one, especially is key if you are really aiming to be a very large company. And some of the aspects around accounts and the way you manage the decisions and the transparency, the HR policies, all of these things, while you are very small, how much you benchmark with large companies and aspire and walk the talk, that becomes extremely important on your path, even though it gets a lot of spotlight when you're trying to build it out for the global market. The last one, what I would focus on is the culture part of it. I know that everybody focuses on culture, but in the initial 0 to 1 phase, culture is essentially how leaders behave. Yes, you can have all of those things on the walls, but if leaders are not behaving in that manner, it doesn't get reinforced. So it's also a big function of how your initial hires are really wedded to the culture that you want to drive, the value system that you want to drive, and how you're being consistent about it when you're driving that value system. and how that value system is as global as possible from day one. There are timeless principles like integrity, ownership, all of these things which are very key when you're creating something new as a company. So staying true to it and being very, very authentic about it right from day one, and getting people who are very aligned to those culture, and having the clarity when there are people who are skilled, who can bring value, but may not be aligned to the culture. As a leader, if you are okay to let go of those people and stay true to the culture, it goes a long way in building 0 to 1, which is sustainable. So yeah, in summary, like I said, having clarity whether it's funded, VC funded, so which means the vision building and aligning the rest of the pieces around it is very important to attract large pools of capital. Second is having a great team and being extremely clear how you want to put the team together, not being lazy about it, saying that, I want to put a team together. I know these bunch of guys, let's get them. Then the whole, the core will become about the background, which kind of inhibits getting newer talent over a period of time. Governance systems not talked about as much in 0 to 1, but extremely important if you are really committed to building a large company, because the foundation that you set in terms of some of the management style, decision making style, compounds over a period of time, and changing governance over a period of time takes a lot of time. Once you set some of those things in place, culture is extremely important. That's non-negotiable. In terms of how you want to build the thing out. So maybe I'll just keep it crisp at these four.
Sure.
Maybe we can come back if there is any specific thing that you would want me to cover.
No, wonderful, Uttam. We'll definitely come back to you. Very insightful, especially the part of going beyond your sweet spot on the hiring front. I think consciously doing that was very counterintuitive but very insightful. So we will pass the baton from Uttam. I think Uttam covered the 0 to 1 recipe in some sense, and I think Hiral is all about taking it to much larger scales. So Hiral, welcome again. You're joining from the US. Thanks for joining in late in the night. And yeah, would love to hear your thoughts on scaling these globally relevant businesses.
Thanks, Shrikant, and thanks for having me on this forum. Uttam, extremely impressive journey so far, and all the best. I agree with all the things that you've said. I think whether it's 0 to 1 or 200 or billion, I think all those are valid, no matter what stage of journey you're in. Like Shrikant said, I'm based in the US, Chicago area. Been in the US for 30 years. Can't believe actually that it's 31 years, or a little bit more than 31 years since I graduated from what used to be REC Surathkal, KREC, and now NITK. I have found the journey extremely rewarding when I was there for 4 years. I had a little bit of a unique situation where I was actually in Mangalore, which is technically a local, but I was able to stay for reasonable significant period of time in the campus, so that was extremely beneficial. I lead a company today called Veltris. Veltris is a digital product engineering company. We help our customers build smarter products. So really what that means is doing digital application development, leveraging the power of data AI. You heard some great insights from Saurabh earlier in terms of AI. So how we can leverage that to make our customers' products more digital, more efficient, more intelligent. Prior to that, I was leading a publicly based company called Mastech. I was the CEO out there for a few years, and then spent some time in Wipro, spent some time in a company called Electronic Data Systems, EDS, prior to that, which in those days was a pioneer for IT services and IT outsourcing. But let me share a couple of anecdotal kind of pivot points in my journey first, and then kind of related back to the scale up that Shrikant was talking about. I think there are definitely some people, I'm sure, from in this forum who are from Tata Motors. My first job was actually in telco in India, and in those days in 1993, which is where Tata Telco released two different. Actually, 92 I think is when they released it. Two different cars, Tata Estate and Tata Sierra. And this was groundbreaking in those days. Mind you, we're talking about a very long time back, where those cars costed about 7 or 8 lakhs, which was a big deal in the Indian market. It had power steering, power, windows, etc., which was again new for the Indian car market in those days. And the reason I give this example is I was, after a few months of training in Jamshedpur and Pune and Delhi, posted in Bangalore to handle warranty claims as a service engineer, to handle warranty claims for these cars. And these are normally wealthy people who own these cars. It was new, and you get, used to get shouted at, pretty much in those days. And that was a first key lesson, which I would say even 30 years later today is ingrained, right? Which is customer service and how you deal with customers, no matter what role you're in, what position or journey your company is in, right? The customer obsession and the customer delight is really paramount, and that's been a key part of scale up, no matter what role I've played. The other thing, in various parts of the journey, you have situations where you're the underdog, right? And in many cases, being the underdog is okay, and being the underdog, in fact, might be an advantage. Even when I was in Wipro, which had become a large company in those days, we were an underdog to an IBM or an Accenture, right? And in fighting competing for some of the first $100 million deals in 2005, 2006, we were clearly underdogs, right? I mean, probably maybe single digit chances of winning those deals. But I'm sure that there's a lot more smarter people on this call, and there are a lot more smarter people in an NIT or KRC when I was there. But this element of underdog is really critical, because it just kind of allows you to go all out and try and make things happen when the chances are very low, right? I do want to share some of the things that my son, who just turned 20 recently, sometimes asks me, are you still kind of are you still kind of applying some of the things that you've learned, right? Because I was a mechanical engineer. I did my engineering and with the purely a passion for cars. When people used to ask me, why are you doing mechanical engineering, I say, hey, I just love cars. And that was my only answer. But he keeps asking me, hey, are you still applying? And I was just kind of going to try and show you. I should be able to share, right, Shrikant, if I can share something
Yes, you have,
in
the
Zoom.
panelists can share.
Yeah. I don't know if you're able to see my screen.
Yes,
We can see.
Okay. So this is in 92, 93, application of computers and machine tool design. My two professors, there was Dr. Balaji Rao, Dr. Balveer Reddy. There's the two professors who guided me. And I'm just showing you this for a little bit for nostalgia, because this was really an expert system in those days. I mean, we're talking about AI right now, right? 31 years later, but this is an expert system that was what we were working on in KRC, in NIT, and that really kind of helped me go into computer graphics, go into virtual reality in 1993, which is where we did virtual reality for computer-aided manufacturing, computer-aided design, assembly planning. So I do think, even though we've moved on to different fields and we probably use more finance skills in some cases, but the problem-solving ability that all of us have learned, I'm sure, kind of holds good. I do want to mention a couple of things which Uttam alluded to, then I'll pause. We can open it up for Q&A. On culture and some of the things regarding the team. Some of this I've learned the hard way, but a lot of times you'll find that you have team members and you have people in your team who are good. I mean, who have the right intent, but it's really important to take those tough calls, right? If they're not the right people for the right role, sometimes you kind of learn it the hard way, where you wait too long, and it doesn't really mean that they're not good people. It's just that you might have a different role for them, or they should be repurposed into doing something else. And in many cases, I've found that you end up hurting them more, as well as many others. So making those tough calls, I think, is really, really critical when you look at scaling up businesses, and particularly, I was part of businesses which were 300 million, and 3 billion as well. Innovation happens in very small pockets, right? In 2016, when I was leading that large portfolio of roughly about 3 billion, one of the things that we had to do is we had to simplify what that really meant. And in those days, we kind of simplified it to three C's. Those three C's were cloud, cybersecurity, and customer experience. And even though the portfolio had like 80 solutions and 3 billion worth of services, we had to net it down, saying that, you know what, everything that we do, whether it's build, partner, or buy, is all going to be around those three C's. So focus and prioritization, and then Uttam and Captain Fresh is a great example of that, right? And just in terms of razor sharp focus and prioritization is very critical, even in scaled up businesses when you're trying to scale. And I guess the last thing I'll say in this monologue is when you're dealing in public companies, particularly, or even in private companies. Today, Veltris is owned by a couple of PEs, private equity companies, but my previous company was a public company, where I was the CEO. But I would say that the one big learning I have had through the years is that the metrics that your investors, and investors could be board members, stakeholders, outside institutional investors, the metrics that each investor looks at is actually very different. In many cases, you kind of assume that, hey, you know what, it's either growth or EBITDA, or around those metrics. But it'll be surprising that some investors will look at return on equity, right? And that's their only metric. And some investors might look at something else. So that's one of those things that you have to look at, particularly in scaled up businesses, where you have multiple stakeholders, beyond the board, beyond the investors, where it's not one metric and not one key success criteria. It's kind of balancing act for how you deal with various stakeholders. There's various other lessons and learnings through the years. But let me pause there, Shrikant, turn it back to you so we can do some interaction in Q&A.
Yes, thanks, Hiral, and thanks, Uttam. Very relevant points from, I think, both vantage points to give a full perspective to our audience, I would say. Maybe a quick couple of questions I had, and then we'll open it out to questions, right? So, Uttam, maybe first to you, given the whole 0 to 1 journey, I think one thing you cracked as you build this multiple $100 million revenue, right, is this many founders try to have a build versus buy, and I think you cracked the build and buy kind of paradigm very well. So, any quick thoughts on how did you really scale your business from that paradigm?
Yeah. No, I think one is I come from investment banking. Buying was something that was natural as a natural tool that I had in my toolkit. Few things there is that uh, um, I think the point that Hiral was alluding to, right? As a founder, having clarity on what you're looking for, what you're optimizing for, the metric is extremely important. And for me, yes, the business input metrics, there are several. But the thing that I always optimized for is the shareholder returns. Simply because I came from investments kind of background, and there was nothing else that I was trained to look for, right? And as I'm looking for shareholder returns, everything that I want to do, while you have clarity on where you want to reach, you always have two options: whether you can build to that route or buy into that route. So if you are optimizing shareholder returns, you know that which of these routes are the efficient path to that end point. And also, as an entrepreneur, I think my DNA is that I'm not wedded to my solution, in the sense that uh, uh, I don't walk into a certain situation with the whole feeling that I am better at doing this and I want to do it my way. I'm very open as a person to really look at, okay, if this is a working solution, how does that fit into my jigsaw puzzle, and we move forward, right? I think those few mindsets are important to go with a buy kind of a approach, because it's not just about completing the purchase of the company. It's also about how you fit that company into your setup post that, which means how you have thought about the importance of that company and how you are able to really respect those people who come and make them feel really good in the system is very important. And that stems from the fact around how you have valued that. If you believe that no, you can do everything that that other company is doing, you're just maybe, let's say, acquiring them from the top line, or the top line, I don't think that's going to end well, right? So some of those input belief systems are important when you go into a buy kind of a scenario. So just to give out in terms of what we have done a few acquisitions. We have done an acquisition in the US. It's the largest acquisition, which had revenues of close to 350 million dollars. We have done acquisition in Europe, both in France and Poland. So we have been fairly acquisitive.
Yeah, sorry, please continue.
Yeah, we've been fairly acquisitive, almost to the extent that we've raised like $200 million in our journey, and more than 50% of what we have raised has gone towards buying the companies, and the other 50% on the greenfield projects in terms of R&D, in terms of what you mentioned, the build part of it, right? So having some of those clarity is very important. Obviously, you can go into a lot of details around the M&A type of decision making in terms of what kind of companies that you want to acquire, you having a clarity framework, how do you want to pay it, structuring all of that. But that's fairly nuanced, and maybe for a very specific chat we can have around that. But as a founder, being clear that what you're optimizing for, if you're optimizing for shareholder returns, then yes, build versus buy, and not being very emotional about any of these paths, right? A lot of times, what I've seen founders is they walk into a company, they see something, and they believe that, no, look, I can do this better, right? But you should know that if you can do this better, you obviously will take some time. So there is a cost. One is something which is visible, which you can put on paper, and something that you cannot quantify, which is all the time to market, etc., execution risk, all of that. For somebody to quantify all of this in totality and say, look, buying versus building, this is the choice, is I think where one needs to step back and look at it.
Right. Wonderful. Well put, Uttam. Like dispassionately evaluating both and going ahead. Hiral, I would love to you to weigh in also, but also would love to touch upon really building. I mean, how do you build a DNA of $1 billion sales business, right? And linking it to Murdi's point also, any quick two mantras to build a good sales business, right? If you can put all of this into perspective.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I mean, there's also a question about how do you disrupt your business model, and to some extent it kind of is ties together with the scale up as well. Uh, I think in various stages, the disruption is a continuous process, right? The unlearning and the disruption. In 2013, 2014, this is about 10 years or so back, there used to be a time where in our business, in the services, IT services business, we used to have a lot of manual testers. And literally hundreds of manual testers within each customer, big names of Citibank or Best Buy or global customers, Shell, BP, etc. We used to have like literally like few hundred manual testers. I'm giving that example as kind of full circle even today with AI and automation. In those days, these manual testers we're doing everything from a little bit of test design all the way to test executions, and we as as a provider, went back to our customers and actually told the customer that, hey, you know what, you have 300 or 400 people that are doing this work. We can do that same work with half the number of people. And in fact, we can do 1.5x the quantum of work, right? Which is the amount of test use cases or scripts. Again, mind you, this is 10 years back, a little over 10 years back. And that was because, automation tools and testing tools had started to evolve and become mainstream. And if we didn't do it as a service provider, our competition would do it, right? So again, great example of a disruption where there is market share game that you have to play in some of these cases as you're scaling up. Now, the immediate impact when you do something like this is actually your business goes down, right? Because you're probably doing, it for half the number of people, your revenue profile might go down. But in the medium to longer term, you have added value to the business, you have added value to the customer, and then you're gaining market share because you're in the game for scaling those businesses. So again, just giving a very specific example, because that same some of the examples that Saurabh was giving on investments in AI, that's going to apply even in today's world, right? Where there will be a certain amount of disruption, and that element of risk taking and that element of ensuring that it's okay to lose a little bit in the short term for the medium to longer term games. You have to play that game. Otherwise, there's a higher chances that you're going to get disrupted. The other thing, I mean, Uttam talked about the buy part of it and M&A, and I agree with all the comments. Partnerships is another thing which is a key part. I mean, you can't do it all, right? Irrespective of how big your organization or company is. And so I've had the opportunity to leverage partners, be it Salesforce or ServiceNow or Oracle or SAP, or some of the newer partners, new generation partners with very specific vertical, industry specific automation or AI capabilities. And those partnerships teach you a lot, particularly the partnerships with startups. And because even if it's in one particular area, I remember in 20, again, it was like 7, 8 years back, cybersecurity was becoming a lot more mainstream as a service area, and the valuations were skyrocketing. So we could not buy companies in the cybersecurity. So we ended up partnering and ended up doing some minority investments in cybersecurity companies. Many of them were startups, have gotten acquired since then, by Palo Alto Networks or other big companies. But the point is, you learn a lot even through those partnerships, as part of the scale up journey.
Wonderful. Thanks, Hiral. I think very, very
Maybe
relevant
if
on bringing.
if I
Yeah,
can
sorry.
add one thing,
Yes,
I also
yes.
saw one of the questions around how do you disrupt yourself. As an organization, being ambidextrous is important. What I mean by ambidextrous is it's almost like playing two games at a time. One is being able to exploit, which is your optimization engine. How do you keep thinking efficiency, keep thinking profitability, but also having an exploratory muscle as an organization is very, very important, because I think what has happened in the last 10, 20, 30 years is that the shelf life of business models is shrinking, which means that it's rare now to see a 100-year business model. I think you'd see that in Fortune 500 churn or S&P churn, or even for that matter, closer home Nifty churn. So which means organizations which are not really able to balance this two game, which is exploitation versus exploration, may not have a large runway. And it's true for startups as well. But startups, I think, inherently have one advantage, which is the founders being at the helm of it, which means they have an incentive to think both and run both the games. But if you have management driven companies, there is always this conflict of interest, because most of them are incentivized on short term goals, and any of these disruptions will mean their short term goals will not be met, because you are cutting into your own revenues at some point. So you're always likely to push the button to the next cycle. By virtue of it, you lose the opportunity. So I think when you're as a board also thinking about having a company which runs an ambidextrous game, you need to be very clear how do you incentivize some of these key decision makers, because if you are not, if it is short term incentivized, it's very, I think it's played out in so many examples, whether it's Kodak or for that matter closer home Intel. It's played out many times over now, and it's very hard for management to really think about disrupting themselves if they are short term incentivized.
Got it. I know there are a bunch of more questions, but then I think we're also kind of running a little late, and the other speaker is also waiting. So maybe there are, and what we are also trying our best is getting Uttam and Hiral both for the main event. I think both of them we are pushing them to join us. So we'll try to have them in Bengaluru on Feb 22nd. Since we are kind of running late on time, I think we can maybe bring this session to an end. There were a bunch of other questions and few other things we had lined up, but I think we're kind of running late. So Uttam and Hiral, maybe quick one-liners, maybe a quote that you remember or something that you want to just share, and then we'll kind of move on.
So maybe quickly from my side, uh, I have been a professional, took this plunge at some point, and come from almost like a point of no advantage, whether it is family or risk, etc., etc. I think something that has stayed close to me along this journey is a combination of high integrity as a person and combination of having courage to take some large key decisions has kept me in good shape so far. I think that's something that I would leave with the audience, that in today's world, you may not have a lot of advantage, any ovarian advantage, so to say, but some of these basic principles consistently followed could stay with you in creating value.
Thank you so much. Hiral, your
Yeah,
one
Shrikant,
liner.
you asked about a quote. One of the things which I always share with teams is attitude. And we talk a lot about culture, but the your attitude really determines your direction. And I've strongly seen that, right? We talk about above the line and below the line, which is having a more constructive. You don't have to be an optimist always, but having a more constructive attitude. But I mean, in the end, you obviously you had to have the right team, the right vision, the right strategy. Execution, I think, is always the key. I've seen the difference between success and failure. Normally, is execution, and I think that rigor of executing a well thought out strategy is always the key. But enjoyed the discussion, and all the best.
Yeah.
Remaining part of the session.
Thank you so much. Great inputs, great food for thought for all of us. Thanks, and we look forward to seeing you both in person as well. So thank you, Uttam. Thank you, Hiral, for this wonderful conversations on scaling, or building global scale businesses, which both of you are kind of doing in multiple stints. So thank you so much. So we'll move on from this part of the discussion. Thank you. So we have the last keynote speaker joining us. So let me spotlight Suhas. I mean, what do I do to introduce him, right? I mean, yeah, Suhas, if you are on, yeah, video, yeah, great. So let me just spotlight you. I think you're not just an ITK pride, you are, India's pride. So, so thank you, Suhas, for making it. So Suhas, I think he needs no introduction. He's an IAS officer, a Paralympic athlete. I think you personified this theme of, achieving global excellence, and we'd love you to share more on that. I think quickly on Suhas, he's an IAS officer from the Uttar Pradesh cadre and currently serving as a secretary and Director General of Youth Welfare and Prantiya Rakshak at Government of Uttar Pradesh. Of course, multiple awards, medals, accolades, including Paralympic, medals in the recent Olympic Games, and then of course, ranked number one world champion, Arjuna awardee. I think the list goes on, so I'll not spare. I mean, I'll let Suhas speak more. So, welcome, Suhas. Over to you, and we'd love to hear from you.
Thanks, Shrikant. I can see Deepak. Thanks, Deepak, and the team for having invited me. It's always a pleasure to connect with my friends at NITK, and it's indeed an honor to be speaking here. Uh, and I was listening to the speakers who spoke previously, and you were asking about the quotes that inspire. So let me start with a quote that inspires me, which is relevant for achieving global excellence also. That is, if it is easy, everybody would do it. No, that is how life is, right? If it is not always easy, but then the journey is what is exciting. I never thought that I will come thus far in life, and I'll mix little bit of Hindi because I work in UP so much that there was a time when I used to be afraid of speaking Hindi publicly, and now it's almost that Hindi comes so naturally to me. So I hope audience won't
Sure,
mind
sure.
it. Yeah. So I have thought about few points that I'll put across, and then we'll open the session for discussion. Uh, First one is thinking horizons. That is, 20 years ago, what I used to think my limits were different than, or are different than what I think are my limits today. So when we were in 12th standard, just before entering NITK, so probably our aim was to get into the best college possible. So probably when we were in NITK, the aim was, or the target was, to get into the best company possible, to get placed, or get into IIMs or whatever. Because at that time we can only think about the next immediate goal. So once we take plunge into the corporate sector, in my case, I did take plunge into the corporate sector for around 3 years. So you always think about the next best thing that you can do. So I think that is how life is. We can only take one step at a time. Thinking too much ahead does not help. And in my case, I just, when I was in the private sector, one of the things that my manager said when I used to work for SAP Labs, I still remember. That's relevant for every one of us. That is, he used to say, Suhas, you have to get out of comfort zone to do whatever you want to do. So that's relevant. That was relevant then, and that is relevant now, because generally what I have seen is we get sort of comfortable with what we are routinely going through, because maybe we all have commitments to fulfill, but then you have to take that risk. You have to take you have to go out of the comfort zone. After I still remember when I cleared my mains exam, UPSC exam. I said to my manager, now I know I would like to take a break. I'd like to resign from the company. And at that time, I was the only earning member in my family. But when I spoke to my mom, she said, this is the time when you have to take a plunge and just try. So the lesson that I've learned is it's okay to try and fail than to have not tried at all. I think it is applicable in the corporate sector. I have had the fortune of interacting with a lot of my friends from the corporate sector. I have been district collector of Noida, where it's probably the epicenter of the corporate sector in North India, apart from Gurgaon. And I've had the opportunity of being district magistrate for almost 10, 11 years in different districts. So coming out of the comfort zone and trying is what is very important. And one thing that I have learned in being learned after being in the government sector is that's true for any private sector also. And I've heard this. Saurabh Mukherjee also has spoken in one of his talks. I have heard it's essentially technology is continuously changing and the landscape is being continuously disrupted. So we have to adapt. If we don't adapt, then it, either perform or perish. So we'll have to adapt to changing landscapes. And I still remember when we entered in 2004 the corporate sector, there was a debate about the product companies and the services companies, so to speak. People were probably wanting to get into more product companies because they used to pay well at that time. So I think right now probably the distinction is those who are working on the frontiers of technology and those who are probably delivering goods and services through technology. Always the people who are trying to work in frontiers of technology, it's that's where the real risk is, but that's where the real return is. I was hearing my previous speakers who were I think essentially trying to work on the frontiers of technology. A few lessons that I've learned in life that sport has taught me. You don't will you don't win all the time. Success and failure are part of your journey. um, the greatest players, whether it is in tennis or badminton, if you look at all the matches that they have won, even I am presently ranked world number one in my category. But if you look at the number of points that I would have won, I would have won hardly 60% of my points. So when I'm world number one, and in the matches that I have won, I would have won 60% of the points. You can, the margin between success and failure, especially in sports, is in millimeters in badminton. So I think that's how in life, life also is like that. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't win, and probably because there are many factors that you cannot control. So two experiences in administration that I have had, wherein there were real challenges. That is, you would all be reading in the newspapers that Kumbh Mela is about to happen in Prayagraj. And last Kumbh Mela, I had the honor of being a district magistrate of Prayagraj, and I was part of administering Kumbh Mela and managing it. The lesson that we learned was we did almost 1.5 years, 18 months of planning, all for probably a single day. That is called as Mauni Amavasya, if you know, wherein almost 3 crore people pour in, 30 million pour in to take a dip in the holy Sangam, and you have to plan it for 1.5 years, and you have to plan for all contingencies. People from all around the world come. So the lesson is, you can think of an analogy of Usain Bolt, preparing for 4 years, and it's all for 9 seconds. So in Kumbh Mela, we prepared for 1.5 years, and it was for one day wherein you have to plan so much. One more lesson that I have learned is when I was posted as district collector, Noida, one single day I get a phone call saying that during the COVID situation that I have to go and perform my duties. Leading a team is always leading from the front. I still remember the days when people were not willing to go inside the COVID wards. So what I had to do was tell my team, let us all wear PPEs and go inside the COVID wards and meet the COVID patients. What I'm trying to say is, leading is not only telling or speaking or giving motivational speeches. It's all about doing and actually showing to the team that you mean what you say. It's not that you're just saying for the sake of saying. And one more lesson, it's very relevant for people from NITK, and probably when we got into NITK, we thought we have achieved sort of everything that there is to achieve. But then the life teaches us that every summit is a new beginning. It's a journey after all. So we cannot be complacent, because probably it's true in corporate sector, it's true in government sector also. Those who could not make into NIT, could not get into NITK, when they come into corporate sector, probably would have more zeal to prove that they are better than others. And that's how life is. You have to consider every summit as a new beginning, and you have to go ahead. And thinking and talking about how journey of life takes, I still remember in Olympics and Paralympics, the biggest challenge is to actually qualify to the event, because there's hardly one or two players from the country that are able to qualify. In our case, it was one, and I still remember in Tokyo, I lost few tournaments at the quarterfinal stages, and then there were two tournaments remaining. Before that, I almost thought of quitting sport, and my coach told ki no problem. Brazil and Peru were the two tournaments. You have lost almost four quarterfinals consecutively. You have to win two gold medals. So I just went in and I just told myself that I will not have the fear of failure. At the end of the day, we often fail because of fear of failure. I told myself, okay, जो हारे तो हारे देखा जाएगा. So Brazil gold medal, then Peru gold medal, then I ended up winning silver at Tokyo. And similarly, because I was DM Noida, I did not play almost for 2 years. And in the qualification cycle of Paris, when I started, I was ranked number 39. And again, the circumstances were similar. And if you had asked my colleagues who play or other athletes, they would have told कि सुहास भैया इस बार पेरिस के लिए तो qualify नहीं ही कर रहे हैं, because it looked almost impossible that others were ranked number 3 and 5, and I was 39. And from there, I had to win crucial tournaments and Asian games in Hangzhou. I ended up winning gold, then World Championship gold, and then Paris silver. So as Nelson Mandela says, it almost looks impossible till it happens. So that's how life is. So I never thought I'll from a rural village in Karnataka, I'll end up getting an honorary doctorate from NITK. That is the college wherein I always dreamt of. उस जमाने में तो IIT के बारे में पता भी नहीं था. 12th में पता चला कि IIT भी चीज होती है. नॉर्थ इंडिया में तो I see my children are talking about IIT from 5th standard only. So that's probably that's a generational gap also. So I think at the end of the day, it's all about having gratitude and having sense of being grateful to what we have got. Because मैं government में अक्सर बोलता हूँ. I say this in our government sector, and I'm sure private sector maybe when I talk to my friends, it's a highly stressful job that we are doing. And what I say to myself is, during my NITK days, I think the only possession I would say I had was मेरे पास Yamaha Crux bike था, and उस वक्त हम इतने खुश थे. When probably we did not have anything else to show for, we were very happy in NITK. So आज की तारीख में, I think all of us, in terms of material possessions, we have got more from life than what we had during NITK days. But then the crucial question is, are we as happy as when we were in NITK? So that is what I try to ask myself very often. जब अगर मैं कॉलेज में जब कुछ नहीं था मेरे पास, उस वक्त मैं अगर खुश रह सकता था, तो आज की तारीख में जब ईश्वर ने उससे ज्यादा ही दिया है, at least we should be as happy as when we were on the shores of the beaches of Suratkal. I think having sometimes na zindagi mein we sort of take what we have got for granted. So I think we should not take things for granted, and we just need to be grateful for what we have got, and then strive for whatever we are aiming, whether it's corporate excellence or whatever we want in life. So yes, so I think we'll open it for discussion, and that is probably that will be. I'll try to talk, or you can give your observations. I hope that is okay, Shrikant and Deepak.
Yes. डेफिनेटली सुहास, आई थिंक यूपी वाले हिंदी में बोलना पड़ेगा. तो बहुत ही बढ़िया आपका जो टॉक था. तो वंडरफुल, थैंक्स फॉर एक्चुअली ब्लेंडिंग इनसाइट्स फ्रॉम बोथ द स्पोर्ट वाला कोर्ट एंड आपका रियल लाइफ यूज केसेस, आई मीन एक्सपीरियंसेस जो आपने शेयर किया. सो आई थिंक देयर आर कपल ऑफ क्वेश्चंस, सुहास, वुड लव फॉर यू टू टेक देम. आई थिंक वन question is, I think, about the last Kumbh Mela. How can we take some of the learnings and improve it for the next edition, I mean 2025?
Yeah. So
And yeah, go on.
yeah.
Go
So
ahead. Sorry.
regarding Kumbh Mela in 2013, there was an unfortunate. Every 6 years, the Kumbh Mela happened. The Kumbh Mela and then the Mahakumbh Mela. 2013 was the previous Kumbh Mela. 2019, then 2025 now. So in 2013, there was an unfortunate accident at the railway station. If you guys remember, and many people had died, and so the challenge for us was to ensure that it will not be without any incident, because होता क्या है कि गवर्नमेंट में, आई एम श्योर दैट्स देयर इन द कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर आल्सो, जब सब ठीक रहता है ना, तो कोई आपसे ये नहीं पूछता है कि भाई आपको शाबाशी कम ही मिलती है कि ठीक क्यों है। अगर कुछ गड़बड़ हो तो सब लोग बोलेंगे कि भाई ये गड़बड़ क्यों हो गया। So and it's in public, in civil service, it's obviously we are expected to actually deliver spot-free events, and it's, they say, no, mother of all event management. It's more tougher than conducting an Olympics, and it's so you plan, and you actually try to think of all the possible contingencies that might occur. And even after that, and we ended up with situations wherein we did not foresee that, because it's like when millions and millions of people pour in within a matter of 24 hours, and you can only imagine a certain branches of contingencies, and we had to come up with innovative solutions, and you have to take the local public along, and then जैसे कहते हैं ना, कुछ चीजों को तो आप महसूस करते हैं, तो हमें लगता है कि कुंभ मेले को हम एक तरह से कि जी के महसूस किए हैं। तो it's a learning for all of us, because handling crowd at that scale, it never happens anywhere else in the world or in the country for that matter. So yes, it was a learning experience, and it's, at the end of the day, it might sound extremely boring, but planning for all the eventualities, I think that's what eventually saved us.
वंडरफुल सुहास। कपल मोर क्वेश्चंस हैं। एक तो है कि मुरली इज आस्किंग ऑन द एक्सेलेंस पार्ट। मुरली, यू वांट टू unmute and speak?
Yeah, I think actually I just missed my question that I asked. Maybe you can just read it out. I was just focusing on something else. Give me a minute.
Yeah, so spirit of excellence, is it born or no? Can youngsters train for it? Yeah.
So Suhas, fantastic talk. I think the core point was you've achieved a lot, and there are a lot of youngsters in the audience, and many people feel that excellent people, great achievers, are born, right? That's the thought process that youngsters carry many times. So what's your advice? Is excellence inborn, or you can train yourself to be excellent?
I think I still remember when my father got transferred from, there is a place called Tudda in Mandya district of Karnataka to Tiptur. He was hoping that I'll get into a good school, and I did not get admitted to English medium school in 5th standard, and the same thing happened in 8th standard also. And I wish I had 10% of the confidence that I have now during my early days, that is during my primary schooling or middle schooling days. So at that time, the only target was to prove to myself and to my family कि हम भी कुछ है. So I don't think it's yes, few of the gifts and skills you might say that you are born with it, but otherwise it's some of it is what life throws at you, and most of it is how you make out of it, and how what you make out of it. वो रॉकी का फेमस डायलॉग है ना, life is not full of roses. Life will hit you hard, and it does not matter how many times you fall down. What matters is every time you fall down, whether you get up and fight back. And this is true in life. I have fallen down, and I've tried to fight, and I've fallen down, and then sometimes I've succeeded, sometimes I've not succeeded. That's the sport is a great leveler. स्पोर्ट में हमें ये सिखाते हैं कि आई माइट हैव विन ओलंपिक मेडल, बट नेक्स्ट जब मैच होता है उसमें जब स्कोर होता है 0-0 होता है, एंड आई माइट एंड अप लूजिंग द नेक्स्ट मैच इमीडिएटली आफ्टर ओलंपिक्स. वो आई थिंक लाइफ इज आल्सो लाइक दैट. And समटाइम्स ना हमें लगता है कि सक्सेस को हम अपने आप को बहुत पर्सनल बना देते हैं कि हाँ मैं बहुत सक्सेसफुल हूँ इसलिए कि मैंने बहुत कुछ किया है. आई रिमेम्बर अ कोट बाय वॉरेन बफेट हु सेड कि भाई he is successful because he is born in a capitalistic country like America. If he were born in Rwanda or Congo, whatever his investment skills, they would not have been much of use there, even though he would have been as skilled as he is. So I think part of it is skill, but part of it is what destiny gives us. And that is why I think successful people should be humble first and proud next.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. I
Fantastic.
think a couple of quick questions, Suhas. Ek to, what's your next summit for you to conquer? Abhishek asked this. And adding to that, Sunil also asked, you play two different roles of an administrator and a sports personnel. So which one do you enjoy the most?
I have been fortunate कि I do like both sports and administration also, because civil service being amongst public and framing policies, and that is a place which gives me immense happiness. And sports, yes, it's I think the sort of the real if I have to define how how do we make it in life, I think finding something that you love and doing it as a profession, that is probably the greatest gift that we can give to ourselves, ki whether it is in corporate job, whether it is in government job or in sports, if we can enjoy what we do. सो इफ वी कैन, जैसे हम लोग वीकेंड्स के लिए इंतजार करते हैं, तो वीक डे को भी अगर उतनी पैशनेटली अगर हम परस्यू कर सकते हैं, दैट इज व्हाट आई हैव ट्राई टू डू. आई ट्राई टू एंजॉय व्हाट आई डू इन टर्म्स ऑफ माय गवर्नमेंट जॉब एंड स्पोर्ट्स. एंड व्हाट नेक्स्ट बहुत सोचा नहीं अभी, बिकॉज पेरिस के बाद आफ्टर टू पैरालंपिक मेडल्स, आई जस्ट वांट टू टेक लिटिल इजी एंड सॉर्ट ऑफ एंजॉय माई सेल्फ, क्योंकि पिछले कुछ साल तो यही रहा ही है कि इसके बाद, बिकॉज इट हैज बीन सो टेंस इन द सेंस दैट when I after Noida I got promoted and I came to Lucknow, बहुत लोगों ने कहा अरे ये सब क्या पढ़िए, हो गया एक ओलंपिक मेडल हो गया तो 1 से 2 हो जाएगा तो क्या हो गया. बहुत लोग पीठ के पीछे बोलते भी अरे ये सब की क्या जरूरत है, तो आराम से अच्छी खासी जॉब है, तो क्या इतना सब कुछ करने की जरूरत है. बहुत लोग बोलते हैं अरे ये तो बेवकूफी है. But then that is how life is. I took a plunge and I almost, as I said, from rank 39 वहां से 1 आया, and I had to play extremely, मतलब बहुत ज्यादा ट्रेनिंग करना पड़ा. And yes, I want to take little easy now. And I think and one more lesson that I have learned is I'm sure you guys would also do it. We are harsh on ourselves. हम लोग खुद के बारे में इतनी ज्यादा एक्सपेक्टेशन रख लेते हैं ना, हम अपने ऊपर ज्यादा हार्श हो जाते हैं. तो मैंने धीरे धीरे ये सीखा है. आई थिंक आई हैव आल्सो बिकम लिटिल वाइजर. वी शुड बी लेस हार्श ऑन आवरसेल्व्स. आई थिंक वी शुड बी आस्किंग द क्वेश्चन टू आवरसेल्व्स कि have we done the best that we can. So and after that I think we can rest little easy and take one step at a time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Suhas. I think we are running a little late. So maybe if you are available, we can maybe continue this. We just wanted maybe to, we have a dean of alumni affairs, Professor Shrikant Rao, who's available, who's online. So we would like him to speak a few words and also kind of bring the formal part of this to conclusion, and we'll also take a photograph. But then uske baad we'll love to maybe carry on as well. Yeah. So Professor Shrikant Rao, can you switch on your video? Suhas, we'd love for you to stay back while Professor comes on. Like,
1 minute.
yeah.
Starting my video.
Yes.
Okay, video. Okay, right now. So,
Okay. We'll just spotlight
first of
you.
all, my congratulations on behalf of the Institute for successfully organizing this event. I think 3rd time in a row. And credit should go to the organizing team. That's, as I know, Mr. Niranjan and his team, enterprising team. So we are proud of the team for bringing in so many people, either for the curtain raiser or the main event. And as far as the institute is concerned, among so many activities which are happening every year, what I find from the past events or experience is one of the gems as far as the experience of the last year's high in every event in the institute or in the meetings. He never fails to forget to mention about the success of these NIT engineers or the NITK team also. So in that way, I feel it's a huge success. And this time also, you are continuing this NITK 2025. The efforts are laudable. So it's a superhuman effort from all of you. And because I'm traveling and I joined midway, so I could hear talks by two people, eminent people. So what they are sharing as the technocrats or entrepreneurs, your advice are key to the success of our students, upcoming students, or other entrepreneurs. And finally, for the entire country, your inputs are success mantra. And one more thing is, so it's a life us out what we call hearts, and our institute emblem also you can see NIT emblem has that. So it's exactly in tune with what Suhas also told. So let us all get inspiration from such talks and the upcoming event of NITKonnect. I wish that NITKonnect 2025 a huge success. And from our side also, I will ensure good participation of the students as well as some officials from our institute. Thank you for providing me an opportunity.
Thank you, Dean and Professor, for making it. I know you are traveling. The voice is a little breaking, but we could get a good sense of what you. Thanks for all the encouragement
correct.
and yeah, we love you to stay back, and Suhas as well. Maybe I'll invite everyone to maybe raise your hands. We'd love to spotlight you. Let's make it an open floor for of course one photograph, sabka, and then of course an open discussion as well. I will kind of promote each one of you to a panelist mode so that you can switch on your video. So if you can raise your hand, I will be able to do that. Suhas, we'd love for you to be for the photograph, and then maybe ek aur do sawal bhi aap agar le sakte ho, that will be great. I'm just promoting people to panelists. So just bear with me. I'm also requesting other co-hosts to do so that we do it quicker. So yeah, I hope and please switch on your videos. We'd love to see all of you. Yeah, so I think few more people, please raise your hand and we'll just add you to the main chat. Please switch on your video. Yeah, so I request Almas and Sachin to
On it.
Yeah, and please accept the request so that you are back on. Yeah, yeah, a lot of you. So glad that all of you stayed back for Suhas's talk as well. Yeah, great. I think that's a full screen of red and a bunch of other colors.
Yeah, request everyone to turn on your cameras for the picture.
Yes,
Those
yes.
were
Yes, I think we've.
Can you try Karan, sir? I think, okay. He's raised his hand, but not able to promote him. Cool.
I think he should accept it if he has received a request.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I think we're good.
Yeah, I think it's great. Can I request at least a few of you to take snapshots?
I can do that.
Yeah. And I just wanted to call out that I see a few more chapter president who joined later, Ranjit thanks for joining from Dubai. And also, Goel sir, thanks for joining from Nepal.
Oh, great. We have more representation. Great. I hope we have added most of you to the thing. So please spot yourself and what you can do is you can take a snapshot and tag us on LinkedIn. We'll get some engagement. So great. Anyone else would like to speak or ask any question live to Suhas as well? That will be great as well. I think we've taken the photograph. If Suhas is
Yeah,
available, 2-3
taken.
minutes.
Done.
Yeah, hi. This is Padmanand from 1981 batch. I really enjoyed Suhas's talk. I think it was very spoke from the heart and spot on. So I just wanted to share, some of you may know this, after 40 plus years in the United States, I've come back to India and I have started an initiative with NITK that Professor Srikant Rao says he will know. So briefly, why I came back is I believe each of us has a duty to our Deha Mata, our Vidya Mata, our Desha Mata, and our Bhu Mata. That means the four mothers, the mother who gave us the body, mother who gave us Vidya, mother country, and Mother Earth. And in conjunction with this is why I started Warrior Heart Foundation to do some sustainable work at NITK. We can talk about that in more detail. But I really wanted to appreciate Suhas for pointing out that we should follow our heart, not put too much pressure on ourselves, but keep going forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else has one maybe last question for Suhas? I think few of you had asked, so you can now unmute and speak.
Hi, Suhas. Rajesh here from the 91 batch. My question to you is who inspires you the most and why?
Sir, growing up, I was always inspired by my father um, because because of the way he probably brought me up, and uh, uh, I I think he gave the sort of confidence that you require in today's world, despite all the setbacks, and uh, to keep moving forward. The one essence that we need is to have the confidence, especially during those days when we are not at our best. I remember in my 10th standard, I did not score very well. I think I scored some 82 or 83%, wherein I was expecting that I'll score 90 plus or 95 plus. कि मैं बहुत ज्यादा डाउन था कि मेरा कम हो गया करके. But then when I came back, my father was so good to me, and he didn't even once mention that you have not done as per your expectation, etc. And then after 12th, I think things turned out to be better. What I have realized is स्पेशली हमें सबसे ज्यादा इंस्पिरेशन की जरूरत होती है, सबसे ज्यादा कॉन्फिडेंस की जरूरत होती है ड्यूरिंग आवर फॉर्मेटिव ईयर्स, especially during our 9, 10, 11, whatever, 12th, or even during the college times, if something doesn't work out. I think one, my father, and second, I've tried to get inspiration from different sort of celebrities at different points of time. I still remember जब सचिन तेंदुलकर ने वो शारजा में दुबई डेजर्ट स्टॉर्म इनिंग्स खेला था. I don't know how many of you remember that, कि सेमीफाइनल में क्वालिफाई कराया था एंड देन ऑल फाइनल जिताया था. आई स्टिल रिमेम्बर कि व्हाट सीम्ड ऑलमोस्ट इम्पॉसिबल, ही डिड इट. सो ऐसे अलग अलग टाइम्स में वी हैव बीन इंस्पायर्ड थ्रू आउट माय लाइफ, एंड यस, it's I have been, in that sense, I have been blessed also, क्योंकि I do feel that there are more people who are probably more deserving than me, who would have actually put in more effort in terms of academics or even in terms of training. So I think God has been kind and destiny has been kind. And I don't know how many of you have seen the movie Serendipity. So serendipity means string of fortunate accidents. So in my life, I do feel that it has been a string of fortunate accidents. For example, after NITK, when I was in the final year, I wrote GATE exam. So I got interview call for Indian Institute of Science, and I did not get through the interview calls. I was rejected. When I look back, so I feel that rejection happened for the good. अगर शायद मैं एक्सेप्ट होता तो मैं आईएएससी में एक साइंटिस्ट बन जाता. आई डोंट नो इफ आई हैव परस्यूड ऑल दैट आई हैव डन नाउ. सो इसलिए जब पीछे मुड़ के देखते हैं तो जिंदगी में लगता है कि जो हुआ ठीक ही हुआ. जब उस वक्त लगता है कि अरे भाई क्यों हो रहा है. So I think yes, in that sense, I have received inspirations, and destiny has been kind, and yes, it has been a serendipity for me in my life.
Wonderful. Thank you, Suhas. I think बहुत सारे सवाल हैं, but I think we should also respect your time. So thanks a lot for making it. Also extending it, being very generous with the time and your guidance. I mean, inputs on various life experiences. How do you putting it in a very nice way to us? So I think that kind of brings. I think we've obviously run short, but I'm glad that this was so much enthusiasm that people have stayed on, including Suhas. So we really thank Suhas for making it and everyone else as well. So yes, this is just the beginning, right? I mean, NITKonnect 2025, we've set the stage, we've told all our grand plans. The link is live. I've sent it out. So we have an early bird price, I think, just 999 for a full day event and great networking. I think it's a great deal. So please sign up as soon as possible before the early bird price kind of expires. With that, I think it's been a great morning. I've learned a lot, learned a lot from many of you who joined, and thanks all for making it. I'll leave the stage open for any comments, but then I think we can call it, bring this to a close. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shrikant, for hosting this so beautifully and well on this morning. Amazing job again. And I think a big shout out and thank you to all the NIT Connect team members who made this possible. Fantastic morning. I too enjoyed all the talks and all the interactions. It was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, everyone.
thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Suhas, and thank you everyone for making to this curtain raiser. Look forward to seeing you all on February 22nd at the NITKonnect main event. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, please book your tickets right away. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Have a great evening. Have a great day. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.